So tax inversions seem to be dominating the discussion these days. And that, again, we've talked about them. That's when corporations will buy a foreign corporation to take advantage of their address. You know, if you acquire a foreign company and those assets represent, I think, greater than 20 or 25% of total assets, or the shareholders, or whatever the criteria is. I forget exactly what it is. But if you meet the criteria, then you can reincorporate the business in that foreign jurisdiction. You don't actually have to move the people that you have in the United States. They don't have to pick up and move to Ireland or move to the Netherlands or Singapore, wherever they happen to be reincorporating. But from a tax perspective, their income is taxed as a foreign company. Now, that doesn't mean that they are no longer responsible to pay taxes on their U.S. earnings. That doesn't change. All that changes is that they can repatriate their foreign earnings without having to get taxed in the U.S. on the income that they already pay taxes on overseas. Now, right now, how do companies get around that? Well, they just leave the money offshore and they never bring it home. So they're still not paying U.S. taxes on their foreign earned income. They just don't have access to that income to make investments here in the United States or to pay dividends to American citizens. In fact, what many of these companies have been doing to meet their dividends, because they don't want to pay the taxes by repatriating their money, is they've been borrowing money. They're actually borrowing money domestically because their foreign cash is trapped. So they've got cash offshore and debt onshore, right? And this is the result of our antiquated, highly punitive socialist tax code. And so in order to maintain their competitiveness and to preserve income for their American shareholders, which I believe is very patriotic on behalf of these American shareholders, they are doing whatever they can to minimize their taxes, which is what every corporation should do, which is what every American does. I mean, if you're an American and you take a home mortgage deduction, are you being unpatriotic because you reduce your taxes with a deduction? If you make a charitable donation, is that being unpatriotic? No. I mean, everybody tries to minimize their taxes, including the Democrats. They take advantage of every tax break they can find, and then some. I mean, the people who hate, in my life, the people who hate paying taxes the most are the Democrats, right? They want everybody else to pay taxes, but when it comes to their own, they'll look for every deduction under the sun. And again, I don't blame them. I just don't like the hypocrisy. But here on the Colbert Report, they bring it on Alan Sloan, editor-in-chief of Fortune magazine, which has actually come out against inversions, and they're talking about how it's unpatriotic, and so they're coming on Colbert. Of course, he loves this, and he's pretending to be the devil's advocate, or he's pretending to be, you know, the idiot conservative who doesn't understand this, and of course being very, very sarcastic. But here is this interview from the Colbert Report, cut number 9. See, here's the reality. Based on our current tax code, America is better off when the corporations do the inversions. That's the irony. Now, would America be better off if corporations didn't have to do the inversions because we just lowered the corporate income tax in America? Absolutely. That is the best case scenario. Lower the corporate tax. But if we're not going to do that, if we're going to leave it at the 35% level, plus the states are going to add on their own corporate tax, if that is the case, then the best thing these corporations can do, not only for their shareholders, but for America, is to do the inversions. That's the irony of it. Here, cut number 10. See, there's where he's wrong. They're still paying taxes. These inversions do not relieve American companies of their tax liability. They're still paying all these taxes. If you're worried about people not paying taxes, what about all the Democratic constituents who are living on welfare and food stamps and disability? What about them? They're the ones not paying taxes. Here's the final cut, number 11. Yeah, the actual takers are the people that are living off the government, like the people living on welfare and food stamps and disability. These corporations that are doing inversions aren't taking anything. They're paying taxes. They're paying an enormous number of taxes, or rather their shareholders are paying an enormous amount of taxes, and they're still paying an enormous amount of taxes even after the inversion. The only difference is they can repatriate their foreign earnings, which they're not repatriating now. And by bringing those earnings home and investing in the United States, or by distributing them to Americans who can invest them in the United States, they're actually helping America. What's hurting America is trapping these earnings in foreign countries, so companies have to invest their profits abroad rather than the United States. But they just want to demagogue it because it sounds good and gets votes. They don't care about the country. They just care about politics.